So, there you are, Shana.
Wonderful. Wow. Oh, thanks, everyone. It's so good to see you and sit with you. The stillness in the mountain cloud Zendo was palpable, even in the middle of this Florida storm. What a beautiful experience. I really want to thank my beloved teacher, Valerie, for this invitation to speak this evening. I was contemplating this offering of giving Dharma talk, a Teisho, and I remember Valerie's consistent guidance, to let these words simply wash over you. And if something resounds, let it. The Japanese word Teisho translates to presentation of the shout, not presentation of a whole bunch of words that the listener has to try to figure out and understand. Why a shout? We hear in Zen sometimes, kan or cats. Here's a presentation of a shout because words fail to fully convey this one luminous reality that we can only experience through our sitting practice, our zazen. I mean, words can prep us, they can ripen us, they can draw us in and intrigue us, and they can also entangle us and make our eyes blink and our eyebrows raise, and confusion, consternation, doubt. Of course, all of these things that I just listed, all the myriad things, are both the pointers to and the reality itself, exactly as they are. But that single shout contains everything, even while technically meaning nothing at all. Another Japanese term that I found a few years ago in one of Yamada Konroshi's written teishos that are available on the Sambo Zen website really struck me some years ago. And that term is Ishin Denshin. It's an idiom that can roughly can be translated as heart to heart, or more specifically, what the mind is, the heart or the belly, or hara, transmits. The term is used in Zen for the direct passing on of this one existence, this one fundamental reality, the essential nature, the essence of the heart mind that sometimes Henry talks about, the second rut. Can't be explained through words alone. It's transmitted eyebrow to eyebrow, heart to heart, so that a deeper clarity of reality is conveyed in this way. It's beyond words, because once words pass through our lips, like they are right now, through mind, the whole experience becomes diluted at best and conceptualized at worst. And yet, we have words, we use them, and we attempt to be as skillful as possible in doing so, so as not to, stink of conceptual Zen, or the other word I've heard before is put a stain on this fact, this reality. Of course, from the essential perspective, words can't fail. Even words can't. Nothing can. Still, at the end of this talk, I may ask you if my eyebrows are still here. I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, this term Ishin Denshin brings to mind Mumon's instructions with our foundational and ever practiced koan mu. He says, if you pass through it being the gateless gate or the barrier of mu, you will not only see Joshu face to face, you will also go hand in hand with the successive ancestors, entangling your eyebrows with theirs, seeing with the same eyes, hearing with the same ears. Wouldn't that be so joyous? Eyebrow to eyebrow, heart to heart, or most closely, in as much as you can convey in words, just one heart, just one bushy eyebrow. So speaking of which, the title I gave this talk is Eyebrow to Eyebrow. And the koan that I'd like to present to you is called Zuigan's Eyebrows. It's case 8 in the Blue Cliff Record, or Hekigan Roku. Here's the case. At the end of the summer practice period, also known as Ango, summer ango, Zuigan spoke to the assembly, saying, all through the summer, I have preached to you, brothers. Look, are Zuigan's eyebrows still there? Hofuku said, the robber's heart is terrified. Choke said, they are there. And Master Unman said, simply, kan, or barrier. So just to set it up, Zuigan is a younger teacher, and Hofuku, Choke, and Unman are his elder teachers. And he's asking them, I've been giving the Teisho for the whole Ango. Are my eyebrows still there? What is Zuigan asking? And what do his elders' responses mean? I'd like to examine that a bit in this talk today. So eyebrows are a really interesting part of the body that comes up in Zen. Of course, it's a whole body practice. I just became intrigued in sitting with this koan, which has been with me over these past months. It's been a dynamic time. In the Shobogenzo, Dogen uses eyebrows when he says raising his eyebrows and blinking his eyes. So he uses it in several respects. The first one is just simply pertaining to our zazen. He says, we hit the han and sit zazen according to the olden manner. And you are urged to avoid sleep and to seek the elimination of all doubts. Do not let yourself blink your eyes or raise your eyebrows. That's his instruction. And it expresses the dichotomy of stillness and activity, the sheer dynamism of our sitting. But taken a step further, blinking her eyes and raising her eyebrows is the form in emptiness, the resolution of duality. Just this. So I've been talking already for a bit. I'm just wondering, are my eyebrows still here or not? Okay, all right. I think that's good, or is it? Let's continue to explore. This past week, a series of family circumstances and work obligations took me all over the state of Florida, from up at the Swanee River near the Florida-Georgia state line, down to the prairies and hills of central Florida. Yes, we do have some hills. And then all the way down to Miami and the Everglades, up to Tampa Bay, and then back to Gainesville, all in 7 days. Ever grateful for podcasts during long drives. I found myself alternating between mountain cloud Teishos, NPR programs, and the audiobook Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness, one we've been looking at in Original Love, Practices for Safe and Transformative Healing by David Treleaven. I think I said that right? Not sure. I found there a sort of a paradox in listening and to Dharma talks for hours and hours. Is most of my years of practice have always been spent with about 5 to 10% listening or reading and 90 to 95% sitting or mindful awareness. One Teisho from the Mountain Cloud website can easily fuel my sitting for a whole week, for example. So this was a little bit different. And because of the sheer volume of Dharma, being received, I'd take frequent breaks while driving and listening, and allowed the drive to offer Teisho on its own. The way the endless lines in the center of the highway arrived and swept underneath the car chassis, disappeared behind me, never to be seen again. Each little yellow stripe, identical to the rest, it seemed, and each one totally unique and unrepeatable. I shifted my gaze to the miles and miles of trees that line the highway. I mean, there are probably hundreds or thousands of oak and sweet gum and pine and palm trees, lots of palm trees, even in a mile of the Florida Turnpike or any given kilometer. Each one is a complete ecosystem. Each one is connected to the rest. And each accepts my store of carbon dioxide as my breathing, mindful breathing, hopefully wended out the air conditioning system into the cosmos, returning the gift of their respiration in this intricately connected design, perfect design, that even my little encapsulated car can't close me or any of us off from. My eyebrows are entangled in their roots. An hour or so of silent driving brought the urge to then start listening to David Treleaven's book on trauma-based mindfulness. So I got the next chapter queued up, and the story began of a young adolescent boy who suddenly and tragically lost his sister when she was hit by a distracted driver. And it followed with a description of the unfathomable pain he experienced in the days and the months that followed. Turns out she had been wearing these new noise-reducing headphones that he'd given her as a gift. And thus she didn't hear the car as it just barreled through the stop sign. So he blamed himself, and the trauma of his loss and his self-blame was visceral. And I found myself crying south of Orlando. So as these tears just started welling, I heard my logical mind, that same mind that tries to figure out koans at the very beginning, was saying, it was flummoxed. It was saying, this has nothing to do with me. This is just an academic example in a book about what trauma might look like. But the tears, the heaviness in my heart, and the pain in my gut revealed otherwise. Just as the trees and us cannot be separated by the enclosure of a car, so can I and you and everyone not be separated from this unknown young man whose heartbreak was used as an academic example. What greater evidence can there be that my eyebrows are completely sewn into his? Words can't even come close to describing it. But the tears, I pulled over and I just allowed them to fully express. And then my own grief, of course, that came too. Personal loss and regrets, the state of the world, what our governor is doing to our state, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Elijah McClain, and way too many hashtags say their names to be able to fully digest the pain of that nameless young man, about the same age as my son, mourning the loss of his sister, about the same age as my daughter. The gut pain I felt at loved ones who have recently had bouts of rather serious illness reminded me too closely of impermanence. Grief that just spanned this whole skin bag to a whole cosmos of grief. And it came from a love so deep, it was all abiding. And I realized that this boy's grief and the world's and my own are one unit, one eyebrow, so to speak. His pain, the world's pain, mine, yours, they met each other there, independent of space and time and source. It's reminded me of a very famous Rumi poem, an excerpt from that poem that many of you are probably familiar with, and I'll read that excerpt to you. The poem is called The Great Wagon, which reminds me a lot of our cart, our two-rutted cart. And the excerpt goes like this. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other. It doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door, Khan, is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Just to soak in these words. There are the words, all the tears, all of everything, awake, alive, alert, aware. That is the great wagon, the two ruts, the whole, the Khan. After a good cry and several miles of contemplation and astonishment about the palpable experience of non-separation, I decided to listen to a different podcast. This one was Eye to Eye Animal Encounters on NPR's The Show to the Best of Our Knowledge. Now here, just perfect segue. The narrator read from a book by ecofeminist philosopher Val Plumwood. She had a book called Eye of the Crocodile, and it recounted her survival from the death roll of getting caught in the jaws of a crocodile on the Kakadu River in Australia. And she survived. According to Plumwood, this is her direct quote from the book, she said, "Its beautiful, flecked golden eyes looked straight into mine. It stripped away not only my skin, but my illusions of the nature of life and death. I leapt through the eye of the crocodile into what seemed like a parallel universe where everything flows, where we live each other's death and die each other's life. We are the feast. By understanding life as a recirculation, as a gift from our ancestors. Val Plumwood was certainly terrified when this happened. Hofuku noted that the robber's heart, Zuigan, remember when he asked about his eyebrows? Robber's heart must be terrified. Here, in the throes of her pure experience, or even in the face of certain death, she couldn't help but notice the beauty of the crocodile's gold-flecked eyes. Plumwood was already gone in that one terrifying moment. Just the death roll. Just the gorgeous golden flecked eyes, even as she was fighting to make it to the shore. Just the terror, the blackness of the water. She described the paperbark tree like a bright light on the shoreline that would be her salvation. Just that tree. Each wild arising, fully expressing in this terrifying moment. She had no eyebrows to consider, and if she did, they would be inseparable from the crocodiles. Never mind that crocodiles are reptiles and technically don't have eyebrows, but perhaps we can say just one eye, just hers with golden flecks. A robber is actually a good thing to be if one is a Zen teacher. And this is something that perhaps Hofuku was remarking and complimenting. This query. As Henry has often explained to us, our practice is not about acquiring and attaining, adding. It's about dropping away, letting go, losing it all, getting out of our own way. Recalling my favorite lines by Dogen, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget or lose the self. And to forget or lose the self is to be actualized by the 10,000 myriad things. The roadside trees, crocodiles, the grief of a nameless young teen at the loss of his beloved sister. This emptying of ourself, the great emptiness that allows everything, and I mean everything without an opposite, to come rushing in, is the sacred discovery. Sacred, really. I shouldn't even put a label on it. It's the great discovery of our practice. It's boundless generosity in this existence of ours. And if my words can point to it even a little bit, they're sometimes called turning words, then I would be so very honored to be a robber, for these eyebrows to be gone. Of course, they're still there. And they're not. So if that's the case, why does Master Choke say that the eyebrows are there? In some translations, it even says, he says that they've grown. And I also read, it said that they're so overgrown that you need a sickle to cut through them. And that's about as opposite as no eyebrows as you can get. If Zuigan's words have pointed us effectively into the experience, into the heart of emptiness, a world in which we cannot possibly even entertain the idea of having eyebrows, eyes, elbows, or anything. Why would Choke say your eyebrows are well grown? I'll use an example. It was a recent example of a really wonderful friend of mine, phenomenal yoga teacher. And she told me that she prefers yoga, doesn't really want to do Zen, because yoga is about being one with everything, in her words. And Zen is about being one with nothing. Everything, nothing. How to compare the two? Can you think of faith in mind? The great way is not difficult. It simply disdains picking and choosing. Words really fail, especially the dualistic ones. They turn to concepts so quickly. How to explain that the nothing of Zen is the most fertile nothing imaginable, that the everything it unveils is beyond words, beyond comparison, beyond opposition, and certainly not separate from emptiness. If I could really, truly convey this fact, my eyebrows would surely fall off right there. Only our Zazen, though, can truly help us stop thinking and talking and deciding about it and actually see. That eyebrows take up everything. Here, I'll show you. See, look, wait, I will get my camera here. They take up everything. See, nothing but these eyebrows. Total abundance. Okay, so now then it's just as we're thinking, that we get this idea of how emptiness is form and form is emptiness. Eyebrows gone, nothing but eyebrows. The great master Unman simply exclaims, Khan, or barrier. It's beautiful. The great barrier, the gateless gate. Oh, here it is. Khan, not the lack of eyebrows, the robbing of concepts and delusions of separation, yoga versus Zen, eyebrows taking up the whole universe, both of these things at the same time, etc. We could just wipe that all away. Khan, just Khan. What does that mean? Khan. Or it could mean this. It doesn't mean anything. And yet, it literally contains everything. So on the way back from the Everglades, just a few days ago, I stopped at a rest stop right in Everglades National Park, and there was an alligator just really close. You could, I wouldn't, but you could throw a stick at it. It was so close. And it was feasting on copious bait fish that were just teeming in this tannic swamp. It's so life-giving. With every chomp, it would roll, its head, that death roll, but in miniature form because they were little fish. And of course, I thought of Val Plumwood and the crocodile, and her observation upon surviving that we are the feast, is what she said. And in the phenomenal sense, we certainly are the feast as well as the feaster in a world of cause and effect and predator and prey in this perfect and somewhat terrifying design. There's that word, terrified. There's such freedom there. In the same sense, the car hits a teenager wearing headphones, and a brother grieves. The question, did I lose my eyebrows? From this vantage point, could simply be construed, in this cause and effect world as elder brothers. Did I teach adequately? Am I good enough? Is this Teisho okay this time compared to other ones? I'm still learning. Oh, how we endlessly circle the six worlds in our self-doubt and our chronic terror, kind of a low-grade terror or fear of failing, fear of the unknown, fear for our planet and her residents, and all of her species, fear of not measuring up to the artifice of perfection. Now in Zen, we only concern ourselves with unveiling the great perfection, capital G, capital P, perfection of wisdom and compassion, in which we already fully dwell. Thus, we are the feast. It's just that. No one's there, just the endlessly nutritive feast. The actualization of the 10,000, 10 billion, 10 trillion things, and the instant recognition through our own experiences, this personal journey that we're sharing together of terror, fear, grief, sadness, helplessness, lack, or unworthiness. Helps us recognize that we're inextricably connected and also completely and totally free. There are simply no eyebrows to worry about, no one to worry about them, and they can also grow as big and bushy as they like. They can cry crocodile tears or real ones. But I've already talked way too much. I need to sit more. So I hope these attempted words are received with the intention of Ishin Denshin. My heart to yours, my eyebrows to yours. May our eyebrows be infinitely entangled with one another on this shared path and with our teachers. That is, if my eyebrows are still there. Are they? Are they here? So I'm going to close with an original poem, not so creatively entitled Eyebrows. And it goes like this. I have to tweeze these eyebrows. They've become too much lately, full of pomp and confidence and the audacity to grow and grow and grow, till they are freely flowing in the breeze for all to see and quite possibly disapprove of. But every time I try to contain them, every time I look at my original face and aim the tweezers, they cannot be found. So, what else is left to do while the breeze blows adoringly? Khan. Thank you.
Shana, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your compassion, your wisdom, your humor, your heart.
It's such an honor.
Yeah. Eyebrow to eyebrow. The character, Khan, stands over the threshold to the Zendo at Sanun Zendo, which is the home Zendo for Sambo Zen. And he pervaded really well. It feels like we're right there, no near or far. And I'm aware that with COVID, that beloved Zendo is just standing empty now.
Mm.
A student recently from the UK made a pilgrimage there, and knowing that there was no formal schedule, but just found it all gate locked. And yet, still that character you could see over the fence. So
Mm.
no one there, but here we are. Oh,
You feel so close. We are so close. We can't even express how my eyebrows are connected, feeling so connected to yours at this moment. So grateful.
I remember going to Sonnenhof one year to do one of these mini onkos that with John Gaynor that I had a chance to do, and Henry was just finishing up a 2-week session there, as he did at that time every year, and it was this incredible joy that he stayed on. He arranged his schedule so just to sit with us, actually for 2 weeks, and I had a chance to speak to him somewhere early on when the momentum of that session he just finished was all with him. And I asked, what was your last talk? And it was on Zuigan's eyebrows. And he said, whole world just eyebrows. I'm sure the Zendo was full. So, all this life. Yeah. We're going to offer this great gratitude for this practice for you, Shana. One last mention I left out of the introduction to Shana. Shana has for more than a decade now overseen this small but mighty Sangha in Florida Sambo Zen, and its roots are deep. Thank you to members who are here tonight and often here. And again, great gratitude to you, Shana, for holding that space and letting the Dharma be shared in such bounty.
Let me just ask one question. Maybe I'm the only one, but how did that woman get free of the alligator, the crocodile? I've been breathless waiting for it.
Did you hear that, Shana?
I think I heard somebody say, how did she get free from the alligator, of the crocodile?
Yeah.
I actually ordered the book to hear the whole story, but she just did. Sheer will. She focused on the paper bark tree. She just honed into it. It exhausted everything. And maybe adrenaline, who knows? Maybe the eye to eye, I don't know, but she made it. And it was pouring. I do remember it was pouring rain, storming, and her leg was, bleeding profusely. And she had to drag herself for several miles until somebody found her, but she survived. So the name of the book is Eye of the Crocodile by Val Plumwood.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.